Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I have started, but I have some issues with this stream. I don't know what is happening. I don't know if you're having a similar problem as I have, those who are doing it. So I want to make sure what is happening. I don't know what is happening. Something seems to be happening here. Don't know what the thing is, but I'm gonna fix it as soon as I can. I hope everyone is on now. I want to thank those who are joining. Thank you so much. Those of you who have joined me here. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Gary. All right, today we want to talk about another topic, which is nurturing the unseen. And we want to continue our discussion from last week. So we want to continue our discussion from last week where we looked at soul health. Today I want to look at nurturing the unseen, invaluable aspects of leadership and identity. I want to say that your greatest leadership asset isn't your resume, it is your soul. Good morning, Adiga. And Adiga, it's a long time I haven't seen you. Leslie, thanks for joining. Curtis, thanks for joining. I'm having some issues with our stream, but I know we're going to go forward today talking about nurturing the things in us, the unseen invaluable aspects of our leadership and identity, the thing that money cannot measure. I am looking down and up because I'm using two devices because some people come on YouTube and so on. And so I started by saying your greatest leadership asset isn't your resume, it's your soul. And if you agree, you want to type in the chat if you agree with that. If you agree with that, please put your thumbs up or so in the chat. If you disagree, just also say why you disagree. It's nice to have you, Leslie. I know that I was surprised last week when I realized you weren't doing so well, but I hope you're improving nicely and God be with you as you improve. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Marcia Thomas. I'm a motivational speaker, a Christian leadership life and career coach and consultant. And I'm also a best-selling author. And I help persons who need private tutoring in English and those also who need help to complete their PhD dissertation. That's who I am. And then I want us to look today and dig into the topic a little, but I want us to focus on a Bible text that I am using as we go. And so the Bible says, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospered. And so I see a question, what is the soul, in the chat? And we want to look at answering that from the point of view of someone that is connected to God by person of who you are, who created you, and whose you are. And so your soul is that innermost part of you that connects with God, connects with your purpose, and connects with the universe and works in harmony with the provisions that are made for you to exist and the problem that you're created to solve. Your soul is your innermost compass and companion, and it is the final judgment seat for all that you do. What is your core? So you have to strive inside before you actually strive outside, because your soul resonates with all that you are, and it's actually like the driver or the spear, the tour guide of what you do and what you become. It's what fuels you. It what it's what it's actually what gives you life and a reason to exist, your soul. And so you want to ask the question, what fuels your leadership? Is it external success versus internal fulfillment? Are you heavy laden or caught up or very dependent on your title, on your role, on your responsibility, on your achievements, your accolades, and your affirmations from friends and families and so on? Or do you really know yourself and are motivated enough to do what you feel led to do joyfully, and to make sure that you impact, inspire, and grow yourself and grow people, that you change lives and outcomes, and that those lives that you change, those outcomes, make people become masters of their own destiny and tell their own story and not your story? Is that where you're leading from? Are you building a career or becoming who you were created to be? And who is that person that you were created to be? How do you know? How do you know? And so Dr. Leslie is giving us here something that is very important that I agree with, and it is that you have to be aware that you co-create life with God. Very much so. He has adopted us as partners, as his representatives here, and the ability to hear his voice via intuition. Yes, the wisdom and discernment that comes from him, knowing when to take the next step, what to endure, when to evolve, are all things when you wait on him, when you're to make your move, and so on. Very important, very important, very important. And we want to emphasize that we co-create life with God. And that is why our children are lent to us. And that is why our life has a particular span, but it's a span that is in God's hands. And that is why we are given unique gifts and talents, so that what we were born to do and why we exist becomes manifested through this power, through God. So when we recognize that we are co-creators and that we need to hear his voice via intuition, we are able to take it a little more seriously. Thank you for joining, Alison. I think that is Alison. All right. So I had to put that out there because that was such a, 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 a valid point. Because when we understand, when we reconcile things or have an intimate relationship with our souls, because some of us are very disconnected, and that's a reality. We become very disconnected when we depend on external validation. We begin to doubt God, we begin to lack faith, we begin to give in to our fears and remain stagnant and stuck because we are not leading from that whole place that we call soul health. And so we point to that and we call that the silent cost of success, which involves, as we are seeing on screen, a burnout behind closed doors. We are high performing depressive people. We are good and whole on the outside. We laugh and we get things done and we meet our deadlines and so on. But inside we are very alone, and we feel undervalued, we feel like an imposter, we feel unappreciated, and we are always tired. We get up in the morning and we push ourselves, and we are carry that productivity illusion. We keep ourselves busy and we overcommit just to fill that gap that is inside, that we are calling that soul space, that intangible that money cannot buy. It doesn't matter. because no matter how successful we are, and we are right there, and we are actually living comfortably, and we are able to give our family members what they need, but there is this sadness, this persistent sadness that is not leaving us. And so we also have this misalignment of our values with our organization values, and we also have this constant desire. This constant desire is also there to actually achieve more. There is this despondency in us that we can't quite describe. And there's also the issue where we feel guilty and we don't know what we are guilty of. So we want to put that out there also. All right, so we want to go with also that there is this sign. It's kind of like a sign, because we keep trying to achieve, we keep trying to show up, but it becomes more difficult because our soul is not in sync. We're really disconnected from what we want to do. So let's look. We are talking about what money can't measure. That's what we're talking about today. Those invaluables of our souls that money can't measure. And the what money really can't measure is the intangible cost of purpose. That intangible core that we call purpose. Money is not able to measure that. Our character. Money can't measure character. Character is who we are when no one is seeing. Character is in being in our innermost soul, true and honest, and as true to the eagle, to duty as an eagle to the pole. It is not being able to be bought nor sold, making decisions from facts and not ego. It's also being able to do what is right rather than what is popular. That is character that money cannot measure. Being true to self so you can be true to others. Knowing yourself and standing for truth, though the heavens fall. That is character. And then money can't measure your calling. And your calling allows you to strive from the inside. Really helps you to strive from the inside. And I'm taking something here that Leslie has just put out there. Dr. Leslie, thank you so much all the time for just pulling it in. Because when you are unapologetic and you're doing what you're doing from the point of view of your calling, you do not fear criticism and judgment. And so you do not have that guilt. And that is something that cannot be measured. You know and have affirmed and have confirmed that this is what you're created for. And this is a problem that you're created to solve. These are the outcomes that you're expected and pre-designed and pre-appointed and pre-approved to secure. That is your calling. And then if we look at money can't measure your peace. And when our soul is healthy, we are at peace, and nobody can steal our joy or our peace, which cannot be measured with money, because there are so many persons who are at the top of their game, who are in the positions that they thought they wanted, but they are finding that all that glitters is not gold, and that sometimes we mistake brass, think is gold. And it is when we're right there and we have fought and wrestled and prayed and stressed to get to where we are realizing that that is where the stress is. That's where the heart of the wrestling, the real game begin. And we realize that we are not doing what we are required to do. And that our desire was really very tangible, very, very intangible, sorry, and very temporary. It was fleeting. It was actually a comfort illusion or an achievement or pinnacle or self-actualization illusion that really comes from a position and a title and not from your purpose, because your purpose is constant, it is lasting. It carries with it a certain amount of peace as much as it requires resilience, surrender, and it also requires wisdom and understanding, because you must know yourself and you must know what you're created to do, how you want to do it, what you're good at, what you love to do, and it must be profitable. And you must make sure that you push yourself in that direction where you resonate with your soul and your goals are intact and in sync. This is what I really want to do. If there is a persistent misalignment, hunger for something more, a desire to fit this into what you need to do because you feel that there is something missing and that there is this guilt and you can't understand what you're guilty for. You are receiving, but the gifts are not making you happy. Then you need to take a step back. You need to pause and you need to reflect so that your reflection can dig deep into your consciousness in your soul, and you can hear God's voice and the promptings he's placing on your heart. And so you now understand, thank you, Dr. Leslie, again, that you need to do things right or doing the right things, or you need to do the right things. So you would have to now decide if you're doing things right or you're doing the right things. I'm putting it a little further. Are you doing good things or God things? And also, are the opportunities that you're reaching for, without a doubt, confirm that these are the opportunities that God is giving you? Because sometimes very good opportunities come your way, but they are not God-given opportunities. They are not God-given opportunities. And we want to look at money cannot measure your integrity. Your core values helps you to stand for something so you don't fall for anything. And your core values are usually the good side of you, but there are some core values that people have. So are some persons who are revengeful in nature. That's my core value, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, which we discover that all of us end up with either blind or with just one eye, as against core values of honesty, treating others the way I want to be treated, those types of things. And so we want to be very clear that our core values keep us on the side of integrity and soul health and joy and peace, because our calling illuminates our integrity. It's not an easy thing to fulfill a calling that seems to be unusual or different from others, or to differentiate yourself from a calling that is similar to others, because God already gives us the differentiation because of our gifts. Our unique gifts are the persistent gifts that we use across all areas and in all arenas of our life. That is the gift that people call on us on in our family, in our community, personally and professionally. We find ourselves naturally using those gifts and changing lives and outcomes with those gifts that are not necessarily attached to my role or to my responsibility or my position or title at this time. Lean towards those natural inclinations and deliverables. Lean to what you are good at and what you do naturally and love. Lean towards, thank you for joining me, Net. Lean towards those things that are bringing you joy, which might not come from where you are positioned at the time, because some persons are extremely good at their role, but you do not understand your purpose. There's a question here. We can aspire towards faith over fear all our lives, but do we ever arrive? And I say, Dr. Leslie, that when your faith, or let me say, when your fear has been tested enough and faith is all you have, you start relying more on faith than fear. And you arrive at a place where you have an unwavering belief because of what you have come through in the past, how you have been led and how you have overcome. And so you actually will arrive at a place of unwavering faith based on your experiences and to what level you let your mind go and surrender to the present, your circumstances, God, your purpose, and the universe, and reconcile yourself to adapt and flex, looking always to the higher calling and towards that mark of success and leaving the things that are behind you. And so if you keep moving forward into faith and you keep confronting your fear and develop a relationship, if you please, where you reason with fear to say that you have come, where you are here, you might just be necessary. Are you giving me a warning? I am going to be double check. I'm going to become aware, but this is the outcome that I'm moving towards. And so some persons reason with their fear. We talk with the fear strongly and they give it reasons and so on. And for that way, in that way, you are now able to reconcile and get over your fear to the point where you are no longer fearful. It takes time and it takes belief, it takes surrender, it takes obedience, but you can get there. There are persons who have actually gotten there. Job has, Joseph has, Abraham has. There are several persons that we could go through. Jacob had that and got over it, and so on. Because fear can drive us upward or downward. It can drive us inward or outward. It depends on the relationship you have with fear. All right, I agree also, Dr. Leslie, that in any moment we decide if it's money first, people second, or people first and money second. You know, when you put it in the right space, when you put money where it belongs and when you put people where they belong, it carries with it a certain amount of peace and joy, and it fuels soul health. So we have to understand that it's always purpose and people first, and people include you, because sometimes we come and we believe in serving others at all costs to us. But purpose, that's the thing I love about purpose. Purpose reconciles it and connects you meaningfully with people, the people that you're to serve, the community that you're to serve, and how you're to serve them. And it is profitable. It is financially profitable. It is emotionally profitable. It is physically profitable. And it is spiritually profitable. And that is it. Amelia, thank you for putting that point out there, because that was my point exactly. Purpose and people first. The blessings and the money will follow, very much so. Thank you for joining. I think I saw Lisa. Thanks for joining, Ernest. I want to thank you for taking the time also. Thank you so much, Curtis, for joining. And thank you so much, Amelia, for joining. All right. So we want to now look. So we have looked at that thing that money can't measure. And now we want to look at why soul health matters. Why soul health matters. You see, soul health aligns you not only with your inner self, but it allows you to align your inner impact. What am I saying? It allows you to strive from the inside before you actually project on the outside. So you know yourself, you know what triggers you, you know how you trigger others, you observe yourself for a long time to see what your strengths and your limitations are. You nurture your soul and you love yourself, and you also nurture your assignments and the position of co-creating with God. It also allows you to build your resilience and clarity, because it keeps you focused and it keeps you intentional. And it helps you also to live, actually helps you to actually live your faith, if I'm to put it that way, and to live from your convictions, which is an overflow and not an overwhelm. And so you do not go out on a position of fear. You go out on a position of faith, of knowing who sent you, why you were sent, and how you're going to do what you're required to do. You go out in that, with that understanding, with that light. So you lead yourself with light and you lead others with light. And the light touches the light and the light explodes and become brighter and brighter as people get their own revelation, get their own confidence, get their own clarity, and get their own authority to act on their behalf and those that they are sent to act, because we always function in a community. And it says, no, above all, you want to guard your heart, for it is out of that that flows your knowledge and your understanding. And so we are right there, understanding why soul health is so important, why knowing yourself is so important, why operating from a position of who you are and your core values, why operating from a position of coexistence is important. Yes, fears are real and exist, and sometimes are very necessary as caution points and for boundary setting. I agree, Dr. Leslie, and we earn these stripes very much so. We outweigh fear with faith when we look to who have sent us. We look at the provisions that have been made, because higher than the human thought can reach is God's ideal for us. And if He gives us a purpose, He makes a way. What happens many times is that fear blurs the path. And so when we take that mist from our eyes, when we take that little blot from our eyes, when we understand that we have in us and what we carry is sufficient to take us forward, to tear down the obstacles, to break the chains, and to remove the fences, we see clearly. And it's not a dim light, it's a very bright light that we call clarity and understanding. And Job had that experience with his friends when he got into a situation, an infirmity, a position. He couldn't see the divine, but he stuck to his guns that this something good has to be here. There seems to be some light at the end of that dark time of loss, of loneliness, of alienation, of accusation, all of those things. Those fears were very tangible, and he expressed those fears. His friends came to him, and his friends could not believe, out of fear, that you must have done something wrong. You have to have done something. You have angered God in a very weird way. And he was able, if we look at the chapters that follow, to say, I understand what is happening now. When I talk with God, when I express my fears, when I give them up, when I surrender and I accept my lot, my calling, my assignment, my position, he says now to his friends, I think it's in chapter 27, let me tell you about this God. Let me tell you what is happening. And so I know I have no fear. So you can actually destroy the body, but you cannot destroy my soul, because I know in the core of my soul that there is something important. There is some lesson. There is a message. I am in this position for learning, for teaching, for inspiring, for growth. That is where it is. Hi, Cyrus. It's nice to have you, Whisper Boy. Thanks for joining us. I haven't seen you for a long time. Good. So we that is how we outweigh fear with faith. We know why we are sent, what we are sent to do, how we are to deliver it so we can change lives and outcomes, and what will happen as a result. What we are saying is that on the journey, we might become overwhelmed because our soul is not intact. Soul health comes from a deep connection and awareness and life lessons and classroom learning from God Himself. So we live and think from purpose, very much so to serve. Living and thinking from purpose. I was going right there. So because purpose is a divine commission that has been placed on us before we were born. We are established to do a particular work. We are given our unique gifts and talents for that. We are placed in the community that we are for that reason. And we are born under the circumstances that we are born and in the family that we are born at the time that we are born for that very reason. It's not a mistake. God doesn't make any mistake. The mistake is that sometimes we refuse to accept the things that we cannot change. We refuse to learn the lessons. We refuse to grow and strive in the environment that we are placed. And this hinders us, holds us back, and our illumination, our self-actualization, our joy, our peace is destroyed. And sometimes too, we exchange our integrity, we exchange our calling, we exchange our mission and our identity for comfort, for peace that is very temporary, and we sell ourselves to others who we become servants to when we were created to lead. Amelia has a point that this is such a, let me put it up, Amelia, because it's really nice. What you're saying is nice there. So I want people to see. Good. Standing strong in your purpose and trusting is so important. And we lose sight of our purpose and start thinking about money for survival rather than thinking from a place of faith, which is really from your calling and from your overflow and from your striving, which is already in your soul. And I have to agree with you because that is the point that I'm really making. All right. So why soul health matters. We already looked at why it matters. We look at how it impacts you. We look at what you are required to do. And we actually look at the benefits, how it changes you and how it changes others, how it inspires you, how it grows you, and how it determines your influence. And so the greatest want, I say, and always say, it's not my original, it's one of my deepest core frame purpose vision. It's on my purpose vision. The greatest want of men are men who in their ownmost soul are true and honest, who cannot be bought or sold, who is true to duty as a needle to the pole, who stands for truth though the heavens fall. I also believe, which is really my mantra, that you must be true to yourself, and so you can't be false to any man. All right. So as I'm winding down, I want to talk about the signs that you're out of alignment. If you're constantly fatigued, even after getting sufficient sleep, and sometimes you're the sleep in itself, you have slept well, nobody can wake you, but when you wake up, you're feeling very fatigued, tired. And there is also sometimes a sadness in you. No matter what you're achieving, there is still this unexplainable sadness in you. And then there's a feeling and knowledge that you are successful, but you still feel empty. And then there is the case where you're saying yes to everything and to everyone because you don't want to displease everyone. And that is when you're reliant a lot on the external validation and approval. And then there is, oh my, living in a survival mode. Living in that survival mode, which can fool us that we are actually whole when we are broken. And that's very, very important. Very, very important that we operate from a whole place and not from a broken place. And so if your mind and your spirit and your, which is your soul or your body, is not in sync, then the weight, as we said last week, something bears the weight. So I want to look at the reflection. Thank you, Amelia. Why your purpose is important. Your purpose is the currency of eternity, because your soul is tied to God, because he breathed into you the breath of life and you became a living soul. Even though we co-create through our sperm and an egg, it is really God who pulls us right there. And so your purpose is your currency of eternity. And so we don't want to gain the world and lose our soul. So the question I want to put is it to us now: what parts of you need nurturing in this season? What is your season that you're going through? Is it a season of waiting, a season of infirmity, a season of accusation, a season of change, a season of learning? Whatever the season is, because I want to put those into context right here. A season of uncertainty, I want to put those specific ones into context here, so that we begin to look at it and we begin to take the steps to nurture our soul, because our season determines how we transition into the next level, because every season grooms us and prepares us for the next level. And so there are many of us who are praying. For those of us who believe in prayer, we pray all the time, but we miss. God gives us the answer, but we miss it because we are not prepared to hear that answer, or we were never prepared at all for any answer. We are just telling God what we want, and God is saying, I will not be able to give that to you, because that's not what you need for what is the calling that is on you. It's not what you need for your assignment. It's not what you need for your established purpose. And so you continue to pray, and you pray for years, and you fast, and you actually do not get it, because you don't get it until you're prepared. And I think there was an example that Dr. Leslie gave some time ago, how long it took her to put whatever it is to prepare her to write her book, her irada, and put it into perspective. That was one of the powerful things. Sometimes it takes us a certain time to prepare, and it takes a certain level of maturity and highlight. Believe me, and soul sinking and soul health, to understand that you're in a season of preparation and putting those things together and calling on your resources inside of you and striving in your waiting and putting everything together so she could produce that product. That's part of what we talk about when we talk about the part of you that needs the nurturing, that needs the preparing, and how long you need to be prepared for, and how long you're going to be waiting because you are not reaching out in faith. And so because of this lack of preparation, because sometimes we just need faith, and faith means that we surrender ourselves, and we surrender, and surrendering ourselves mean that we let go those parts of us that are in the past that we cannot carry forward into what we are called to now do, or what we now understand, or has gotten the clarity for. So faith means that it also involves letting go of those things and that part of you, those associations, that environment that is keeping you and holding you back, because you're not necessarily called to put that in. And very much so, Dr. Leslie, another great and important point: when we sleep is when God talks to us through promptings, through the dreams, and even directly sometimes, because we see things in our sleep. And our deepest questions are answered, especially at particular times of the night when we are alone by ourselves, even if we are married or we have a spouse that we live with. And at that, there are points of the night when we are talking with God, and God is talking to us, because it is so still and there are no distractions. Everything is shut out, and He can now answer us. But are you listening for the answer? And is the answer that you want? Are you rejecting the answer that you're given because that's not the answer you want? We have to make sure. We have to make sure, because sometimes we get answers, but it's not the answers that we want. We are saying, are you prioritizing purpose over performance? And if you are, how do you do that? Because we gave you that concept last week that you have to learn to prioritize your purpose over your performance. And we are coming back today with the question, what part of you need the nurturing? And as you look at that, we want you to look at prioritizing purpose over performance. And how do you do that? Do you rest before you are you get burnt out? How do you make decisions? Do you have digital boundaries? Have you stopped getting up in the mornings and looking at notifications and your to-do list and just going into your meditation, your scripture meditation? Are you doing that? Because if you're not, then you're not nurturing your soul. You're not nurturing your soul. Not nurturing your soul. We want to make that very clear, and I want to do that. How do you practice your disciplined digital boundaries? I want us to answer that question. And how do you root out? How do you root out? I'm going very slowly. How do you root out your identity and your calling? How do you root out your identity and calling? Oh, we have an answer here. When you lead with purpose over performance, the impact lasts longer than the spotlight. Very much so. And because it lasts longer than the spotlight, we call it influence, Amelia. And so influence is greater than impact, because our influence, and we must guard our influence, because our influence can kill or give life. Our influence make us know. Our influence make us know the authority that we person give us over their lives and their outcomes, and we must use it. We must use it very, very wisely. We must use it to help and not hinder, to build and not tear down. We must use it to collaborate and not manipulate people. We must use it to persuade and not force. And in all that using, persons must be better off. Value must be added to their lives, and they must become masters of their own destiny. It must be that it does not gives us personal gain as against collective value and receiving and striving community of practice, mutual engagement. That's what significance serving does. So we must aim to be more significant than successful, and our success will come full force with that. It doesn't start first. And so I want us to understand the striving of our soul, why soul health is so important, and why we must strive for that in our soul. As we come down, we have just a few minutes left, and I want to just lead you into some recognition habits. And these are the daily ways that you can reconnect with your soul, and must make sure that you make sure you do that. You take the time out for yourself to do that, to strive from the inside and to lead with light, because the light radiates from the inside. That comes from the clarity and the confidence and the understanding of why you were created, why you exist, how you are to serve, who you are to serve, and how you are to serve them. The joy that comes from knowing that you're putting yourself out there to change lives and outcomes and make people become masters of their own destiny, identify their purpose, and live their purpose confidently while profiting. And so we want to look at anchoring your purpose. How do you anchor your purpose? One of the things that you want to do is to have your purpose journal or your purpose vision board. You want to keep those in front of you. So once you identify your purpose, once you know your purpose, and you now understand what it is that you must now do to live your purpose, you understand your anointing, your appointing, and your commission, which was really an earlier series. You now know how to move, and you move with clarity, and you move with confidence, and you move surrendered, and you move obedient, and you move balancing fear with faith until you can get enough experiences and get enough stripes to start letting go of fear. And so you surrender to your calling, you surrender to God, you surrender to your purpose, and you surrender to service, serving your community. And I hope that answers the question, Dr. Leslie. So you do your purpose journaling and you want to balance faith, your family, and your career, sum total of your purpose. You want to balance that. You really want to balance that. How do you balance that? You put it in perspective. You decide what truly matters, what is urgent, what is emergency, and what is it that you're required. What is your assignment at this time? Is my assignment to pay attention to my family, to serve my family in this season, and work is put in its right perspective, and I do my transition routine so I don't take home my work when I'm really supposed to be there for my family, and I don't put things on my dining table, and I don't hurry and cook dinner, and I don't ignore my doctor's appointment, and I do not ignore my children's needs and miss important milestones and graduation and events because of my work or my assignment at this time. Because purpose doesn't require that you abandon your family or your health at the expense of fulfilling your mission. No, God doesn't require that. He wishes above all that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospereth, even as you carry out your assignment and your calling, that you take your rest rhythms. You know when to engage in your rest rhythms and how to put that out there, because your rest rhythms include physical rest, spiritual rest, it includes emotional rest, and it also includes mental rest, the time out that you take to dig into yourself and to dive into your soul and to remind yourself of what you're about and why you're about and how you're about. So we want to understand that rest in itself is a rhythm, and it's not necessarily physical. It includes physical, but it's a sum total of holistic well-being of the mind, the body, and the soul. All right. So we want to also have mercy on ourselves, and we want to have compassion on ourselves. That is a habit that we want. So we know our limitations, and we want to make sure that we press into that and we limit the burdens that we put on ourselves that we are not called to do, and we don't pour into callings that are not ours, and we allow people to become masters of their own destiny, and what they can do for themselves we allow them to do, and what God has to do for them we don't do, because we are not God. We don't try to do, we don't make an attempt, so we get frustrated, we get burnt out, we feel betrayed, we are accused, and we are blamed. We don't want to get into those positions. When you follow when you help your soul, that intangible, those valuables are intact, then you make decisions from a purposeful place, and you accept purposeful mentoring and not everything that everybody offers. You are led to the persons who can help you based on your assignment and who have been put in place as your destiny helper and as the person that must push you on that path. And when their duty is finished, their duty is finished. We are not to hold on to things that God takes away from us strategically and gently and amicably. We are not to force doors open or push doors that God has shut or pulled up, because sometimes he doesn't lock the door, but you are not ready to enter. And we're not to force ourselves into those positions. And of course, when our soul is in sync, when we are in tune, and when we are co-creating with Christ, when that connection is really tied up and wrapped up, we don't make those mistakes, and what we pray for we receive, and what we desire or what we place in our minds is in sync with what God wants for us. And so we get it very quickly, and we get it very efficiently. And so when you're striving from within, these are the signs that you want to have. You know that you're resetting, and you're asking yourself what is draining you right now, and what is it, the feeling that you have. And you also look at what is healing you. So you look at what is draining you, and you look at what is healing you. That is one of the steps for resetting. When you reset, you look at what is draining you and what is fueling you or healing you. You also want to realign. So you want to look at where you're off course from the calling that you're called to do. And you feel this off course, I keep saying, because of the constant fatigue, this guilt that you're feeling and don't know why you're guilty, this gap that you feel where there is some amount of sadness, or there is something missing. You feel that there's something missing. You have this prompting that is realigning. Those promptings, those deep talks in the middle of the night, those messages that God are putting on your heart, those intuitions, follow them, because that is a process of realignment. And then you want to refuel. And so you want to look at how to nurture your inner strength. And you want to look at what is your self-care and your soul care practices. Do I read a lot? Do I shut down the digital stuff? Do I have putting in myself wholesome thoughts, things that add value? Or am I always out there referring with gossip or fear or bad news or stuff like that? We want to make sure that we focus on the good things, the positive things, what the Bible says, true and honest and of good report, and one that carries virtue and knowledge and understanding, ones that give you clarity, that build you up. You want to focus on those things. And so those are some of the habits that I want you to have. And so I leave you with a leadership challenge. And when I talk about leadership, remember that I say we lead ourselves and we lead others. So when you're leading yourself and when you're leading others, I want you to set aside 30 minutes daily for your soul, for your really soul care, for resetting, for realigning, and for refueling. And you need to have that out there so you can lead from overflow and not overwhelmed, that you can be the victor in any and all of your circumstances and not the victim, because you understand that God works all things for your good. Thank you for joining, Sophie. And also that you strive rather than survive. And so here we are coming to the end of it, where I want to leave you with these key points. And the first one is that your success is not, I didn't want to use this word, but I'm gonna, it's not attainable because it seems impossible. But your success is not attainable without soul care, because you are to be focusing on significance, the impact, changing outcomes, changing life, what we call service. That is what we call service. You were made to strive from the inside out. It's not externally. And that's why you come into this world as a little child, and in that little child you know what you're about, you know what you want. You children say, no, I don't like that, I don't want that juice. Children say, I want that. They are very specific and they are very sure. You start out that way, and you can continue in your life just like that. Just like that. The world needs what you carry. The world needs what you carry, but it is not at the cost of your soul. All right? So we want you to protect it. This thing that money cannot buy, we want to prioritize it, and you want to prosper from it. You want to protect your character, your integrity, your joy, your peace, your soul. You want to protect that. And you also want to prioritize which of those are important at any time as you balance your family, your faith, and your career. And you want to prosper from it because God wants us to prosper, even as our soul prospers. So you must prosper mentally, you must prosper financially, you must prosper spiritually, you must prosper emotionally. You are to be joyful. You must be in situations where you give thanks in all things and in all circumstances, knowing that this is the will of God. And I want you to understand it in that context so it doesn't appear to be unbelievable. And I want to say, if this conversation resonates with you and you want to move to the next step, you can book your soul sync session with me. You can do that. You can book your soul sync session so we can work together to take you from where you are to where you are created to be, to help you to realign your calling and maintain joyful work and profit from it in 2025. However, if you're not ready, if you're not ready to have that in-depth conversation and move from pressure to purpose, from just surviving to striving, if you're not ready to be happy and victorious, and you are content in remaining a victim or under the productivity or comfort illusion, then you just need to do your purpose alignment audit. And the link is right here for those who know it. And of course, if after you do your purpose alignment audit, you feel that you should be having this conversation, you can't put it off anymore, you can book, you can just book. So for now, we will continue and finish our series next week. I want to thank all of you who took the time today to be here. May you have a peaceful Tuesday, an intentional Tuesday, a purposeful filled Tuesday, and a soul healthy Tuesday. In the meantime, have a great rest of week. Thank you so much for joining Leslie, Lisa, Amelia, Curtis, Allison. Thanks so much for joining. Amelia, thank you so much. Dr. Leslie, thank you. Rosalie, thank you. Michelle, thank you. Sophie, thank you all for joining. And Adinga, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate the time you took, and I hope you benefited from this. I want to thank all those who participated and all those who added to the conversation. Highly appreciated. Much love and blessings. Have a great day.